you think Conan O'Brien and I have the same cowlick? Hello Stitches, and welcome to episode 7 of the Ranney Knits podcast. I'm Justine, and it is Saturday morning here in the upper left USA. This is a podcast about all the things I am making with my hands and yarn. Thanks for joining me today. I am so excited that you have tuned in. It has been 2 weeks since my last podcast, so I have a lot of knitting to share with you. I have 3 finished objects, all of which I have talked about on the podcast before, so I won't be going into too much detail about them, but they're finished objects and I want to show them to you. So let's start with that. The first one is my Fallen Cloud Shawl. Now I'm going to try to show this to you. It is enormous. I made it a little bit bigger than what the pattern recommended. The pattern recommends 3 skeins of worsted weight, and I had a partial skein that I wanted to use up, so it's about, I meant to weigh it, it's about 3 3/4 of a skein. I still have my progress marker in here. This thing is so squishy, and I really like a worsted weight shawl. I thought a worsted weight shawl was going to knit up a lot faster than this did. I started this in November, I think, end of November, but still, it's been a while. But with holidays and gift knitting and all that, I took a little break from this, but it was really fun to knit. The cable border was a dream. I took a little break from this, and then a couple breaks from this actually, but every time I picked it up it was pretty easy to remember this cable pattern, and once I got down to where it was a lot of garter, it turned into a really nice rhythm. Like you do garter, 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 and then you get to this little fun part, and yeah, especially since after I got to the point where I could just memorize it and not look at the pattern anymore, it was just kind of fun. What I like about this shawl is I can wear it as you would, like, are supposed to wear a shawl. Most of my other shawls I wear them as scarves, unless I'm just hanging out at home, then I'll wear them like a wrap, but if I'm out and about I wear them as scarves just tucked into my jacket. But I think this one, like, I could really wear it as a shawl. It looks like kind of cool. I think I could pull it off. It makes me think of Sylvia McFadden's Gentle Armor collection, you know, like, I don't know, something about, maybe it's just the way that it's draping and kind of just, it's soft and gentle, but it also makes me feel a little bit like a badass, you know, like, yeah, I knit that. Maybe it's like the way it's just kind of sitting on my shoulders, it's just like, it's a powerful feeling, you know, like, yeah, gonna take on the world now. Anyways, if you can't tell, I am totally in love with this. I don't know, hopefully I showed off this cable border enough. It doesn't really, when I'm wearing it, it doesn't really show on camera, but it's amazing. I would highly recommend this pattern. I really want to do a pattern review for it on my website. I haven't done one of those in a long time, and I'd love to just write up a little bit of a review about all my thoughts and feelings on this one. It is really gorgeous and so worth the 2 months that it took me to knit it, even though I'm sure if I wasn't distracted by other projects I could have gotten it done a lot faster. And surprisingly, the Cloudborne Superwash Merino Worsted Twist, like, could you fit anything else in there, guys? Like, fit another word in there? Cloudborne? Cloudborne likes their names to be very long. Their base names. The color is sky blue, which Yeah, okay. Easy to remember. But what I was going to say about this was I have used this before. I used it in my blue snowdrop sweater. I used the base in the navy. And it pills like crazy. That sweater is just pills everywhere, and I need to take a gleaner to it. But I'm not seeing this. Well, there's pill. Found one. But I'm not getting the same pilling effect, and I don't know if that's the gauge I used. I've been wearing this nonstop for 2 or 3 days now, and I'm not getting the pilling. So it's either the dye of the navy just makes it pill, or maybe it's my gauge. Could be the garter stitch. This is warm. It's so cozy. It's nice. That's very nice. I could just sit here with my cup of tea and my shawl. I was watching back episodes because that's the kind of person I am, as I watch myself on YouTube. And I'm always wanting to put out episodes that I'm proud of, that I take a lot of time to edit and just put something out that I would want to watch. I know I'm going to be like the most critical of myself out of anybody, but I just kind of feel like the energy level is low, and especially towards the end and the longer ones, the ones that go on and on and on, I just start droning, and like you could just see it in my eyes just kind of like glaze over, and it's just like, just get this done, must produce podcast content. And so hopefully I'm going to try to bring up the energy level a little bit. That's the problem with podcasting every 2 weeks. I still haven't decided whether I'm going to do every week or every 2 weeks. Here's the thing. So every 2 weeks I get lots of... It's a ghost. Every 2 weeks I get more content, so you get 3 finished objects rather than a couple whibs. But on the other hand, if I do every week, then I'm more comfortable and I have more of a rhythm. Whereas now I feel like I'm just kind of like trying to figure it all out again, back to square one, and just trying to figure out which direction I'm gonna go. The second finished object that I want to share with you is my Speckled Space Socks. Got a lot of blue going on here. Blue is my favorite color. I talked about these a lot last time, so I'm not going to go too much into detail. I think I did a different Kitchener bind off. Oh yeah, I did. Okay, so back on the subject, if I didn't talk about Kitchener bind offs enough, I didn't do the slip stitches on this one, and I like it better. I don't think with the Kitchener bind off that I'm going to do the slip stitches anymore. But if you want to know more about these, go back to last week's episode. Last episode, not last week. Episode 6, I talk about them more than I probably should have. These are done. The thing I didn't mention last time was, so these have a little bit of a cable. It's just a 1x1 cable stitch. 1x1, that doesn't sound right. You know what I mean? It's one cable, one stitch crossed over one other stitch. And with sock yarn, all of my cable needles are a little bit too big. And I know you can do, I've done cables that just, you don't use a cable needle. You don't use a cable needle at all. But for these ones, I don't have it on here, but I just use a bobby pin. and hold my cable or hold my needle on a bobby pin, and it works really, really well. So with sock yarn, because the sock yarn is so small that if you have a big fat cable needle, it kind of is hard to get it on. So Speckled Space Socks. This pattern is free on Ravelry. It's by Amanda Stevens, and you can find all the details in last week's episode about these or on my Ravelry page. So those are fun. So these are my January socks, and I guess I'm technically trying to do the box of socks knit along. I don't know how far I'm gonna get in that. Just because the last 4 pairs of socks that I've knit have kind of been a struggle. I don't want to knit them. And usually I really enjoy knitting socks, but no, lately I haven't been feeling it. Not feeling the sock knitting right now, so we'll see. I'm getting warm. And my third and final finished object is the Till the Cowls Come Home, which was a mystery knit along hosted by Mary Annarella, and the pattern's been out. We finished the last clue last week, so I'm assuming that everybody's done. There were pictures on the final clue of the cowl, so I'm not worried about spoilers. Hopefully not gonna spoil anybody, but anyways, that's the cowl. It's so pretty. I don't know if I've ever done if I've ever knit a fingering weight cowl before. I really like it. I just knit this with leftover sock yarn scraps, and it's got a really interesting construction. So we started knitting flat in this triangle right there, and then we joined in the round, I want to say here, and joining in the round, this part right here was not my absolute favorite thing to do. It just, I like the outcome, just because the striping is different, and it's not just horizontal striping. You get this neat triangle striping. But joining in the round and then switching colors, so you join in the round here with this one, and then immediately you switch colors and then do these striping, and it turned into, I have a lot of little bits and pieces of ends that I haven't trimmed yet, but it didn't look pretty while I was knitting it, and that's okay. It doesn't need to. I mean, the good thing about having all these ends was I could kind of clean it up and fudge it a little bit, but that part was a little bit tricky. But that was knit in the round, and then you switch to knitting flat up here. So yeah, all kinds of, if you are a process knitter, this would be a really fun one for you, because it's just different techniques and you're constantly changing colors, and yeah, it's really fun. And if you like playing with colors, you don't need to, this one has 4 colors in it, but you could do any number of colors that your heart desires, because like the striping, there is kind of a pattern to the striping, but you could do whatever you want with this one, and it would be great. You could just use up little any little scrappy bits. You could do mini skeins. This would be a fun one. So the colors, I was kind of not loving some of the way some of these colors were playing. Like down here, don't love that. They weren't very high contrasting colors. But, I mean, when you put it on, it's, you can't really like see exactly what these colors are doing. And I like it because there's different ways you can wear it and you can get different effects. Like if you wanted more of the white and blue, if you wanted more of the peach to show, just depends on your mood or what you're wearing or how you're feeling is your mood. Anyways, fun pattern, recommend it. If you have sock yarn that you want to use up, this is a good one. It's a good one to go with. All the yarns that I used and details about this one can be found either on my Ravelry page, or I believe I listed everything that I did on my show notes for either last time or the time before. Episode 5 or 6 of the podcast will have the show notes for that. Will have all the details. Show notes can be found on my website, rannyknits.com/podcast. Link is below. Moving on to whips. I only have one current work in progress. I have those long-term works in progress that have been on my needles for a year or more in the case of one of them, and I thought about busting some of those out, but I'm going to save those for another time. I cast on a pair of socks. These are, well, the pattern I'm using is the Yin Yang Kitties by Gina Garcia. And I'm sure you're familiar with the pattern. It's been all over Instagram and Ravelry. But you put the little kitty faces here. I decided to go back and duplicate stitch them, so I'm just going to knit the socks and then put the ears and the faces on. But I think I want to try making these into Yin Yang puppy socks instead, because I'm more of a dog person than cat person. Cats are fine, but if I have to choose, I'm a dog person. So I'm going to try to put a little puppy face on there. I'll let you know how that goes. This yarn is just some superwash merino that I had laying around. Doesn't have any nylon in it, and I said before that I'm not going to knit socks with yarn that doesn't have any nylon in it, and here I am. But it's what I had. It's the year of the stash. Sometimes you just gotta work with what you have, and it'll be fine, right? It'll be fine. These are gonna be shorty socks. I mean, with the little puppy faces on them, I'm gonna want to wear them not in shoes, so maybe I'll just wear them around the house and take good care of them. But yeah, they're going along. I decided to do a pair of shorty socks for February just because it's a short month, and I don't know if I'm going to get very far on my box of socks knit along. The box of socks knit along that I've referred to before is the year-long knit along hosted by Kristen of the Yarngasm podcast, and everybody was doing it last year, and I had a little bit of FOMO, so not FOMO. FOMO. I had a little. I didn't want to miss out this year, so I'm gonna try it. I have my box, so we'll see how it goes. It's kind of a giant box. This will fit more than 12 pairs of socks, but that's what I found. So we'll see. Yeah, I thought a pair of short socks. Maybe it's just because they don't have the faces on them yet. The pattern, you can put the faces in as you knit, but it's such a teeny tiny amount that I don't know. I thought it would just be easier to duplicate stitch. I've only done duplicate stitch a handful of times, but I'm getting better at it. The last time I did it, I kind of figured it out. Like, oh, that's how you don't just, I had a technique rather than just doing whatever. So we'll see how that goes. But those should be fun. That's the only thing I have that is current and on the needles right now. The only thing that's not in hibernation, which that doesn't count. The forever whips don't count. I have some future knitting plans. I really want to cast on a sweater. I haven't knit a sweater since the blue snowdrop sweater, which I think I finished in November. I can't really remember. I knit 3 sweaters last year. August, September, October, November. 3 sweaters in 4 months. And the blue snowdrop sweater, the blue snowdrop sweater was finished in like 2 weeks. It was a worsted weight sweater, but still it was like fast. So I had a plan for the next sweater I wanted to knit, and I swatched for that sweater, but I didn't like the way the swatch came out, which is the first time that that's happened to me. I've had swatches that aren't on gauge, but I just, it's a sweater knit with fingering weight yarn held double, so it ends up being around a DK weight or a worsted weight, and part of it is 2 colors held together, so you get a marled effect. And I didn't like the way that those 2 colors that I had worked together, and those were the only 2 colors that I had a sweater's quantity of that I thought that would be usable, that I had the right amount of yarn for that project. Anyways, didn't like that where that was going. I still want to knit that sweater. It's the Mount Bachelor sweater by, I'm going to say her name is K, but it starts with a K. It's a really wearable sweater. It's tunic length, split hem, the back is a little bit longer, and it just looks very comfortable and wearable, and I want to knit it, but the yarn and the colors that I paired together just, I don't think it was going to be something that I was going to wear. It just wasn't working for me. I wasn't excited about it. Usually if I have a project that I'm excited about, I will swatch, and then after my swatch is done blocking, I will cast it on immediately. And I just kind of like lived with the swatch sitting on my bedside table, and I didn't love it. So I went stash diving, and I picked out yarn for a new sweater. So I am going to cast on the Modern Sailor, or Marinière Moderne, I practiced that, by Marie-Christine Levesque. I never took French. I took 2 years of Spanish, and remember very little of it. So, but this is, thankfully it's in English, so the Modern Sailor sweater. And this is going to be my main color. It is a top-down raglan seamless sweater, and I'm going to knit this with Knit Picks Capretta. This is the color Platinum, and it is a 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon. So this pattern is a sailor sweater, so of course it has stripes, and I am going to be striping it with this mini skein set. It's blue, of course. This is Wonderland Yarns. Queen of Hearts, that must be the base. It is also 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon, and it says Down the Rabbit Hole Hookah Smoke number 26. So I'm guessing Hookah Smoke, whoops, is these colorways. Isn't that fun? That's the first time I've bought mini skeins that come in this braid. That's kind of cool. I haven't tried to, obviously, I haven't tried to take them apart yet, so I don't know how well that's gonna go. Knowing me, I will probably mess them up, but those are gonna be my colors. I have never knit a fingering weight sweater. I've knit 4 sweaters in my lifetime, and I think they were all worsted. Now, worsted or DK, so I'm excited for that. I'll see how I feel in a couple weeks when I've been working on my sweater. This is my project bag for this. I don't have proper, well, this is a proper project bag, because any bag can be a project bag. You could use a plastic bag. It could be a project bag, but this is a bag that was given to me. This is from the Net Loft in Cordova, Alaska. Follow the fish, follow the knitting. If you ever get a chance to make it to Cordova, Alaska, they have a fabulous little store that has yarn and notions and lots of lovely things. It's called the Net Loft, and it is really, really fun. Really fun. And that is it for me this week. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll see when I might make it back next week. It might be 2 weeks until the next time I see you. If you would like to join my Stitch Army, subscribe to the podcast and head over to Ravelry.com and join the Ranney Knits podcast group. Join the Stitch Army because together we can get knit done. Thanks for watching, Stitches. I'll see you next time. Bye.